After running for 6 successful seasons, Better Call Saul has finally come to an end. The cast, as well as co-creators of the show, as expected, had a lot to say after the long-awaited finale. What were the co-creators' thoughts after the show ended? What scenes did the cast wish they could have filmed? And what challenges did the crew face? This video will cover the answers to these questions. Let's take a look at them together. Are you ready? Better Call Saul is one of the top successful spin-offs ever, and when it first started, its success was not so sure. The character Saul was introduced in Breaking Bad Season 2, and though the character was interesting, we didn't expect an entire series dedicated to him. He was more of a funny and silly lawyer that talked too fast, and of course knew how to handle dirty cases efficiently. When Peter Gould initially introduced Saul Goodman into Vince Gilligan's Breaking Bad, he noted that he was fascinated by him and just wanted to see him again. But making him appear too often on the Breaking Bad show was going to affect the show, and he as well as others were worried about that. Then, about 2 years after the last episode of Breaking Bad aired, Better Call Saul aired its first episode. Interestingly, the new series, co-created by Vince Gilligan and Paul Gould, did not only feature the events that happened after Breaking Bad, but also featured events that happened before, thus serving as a prequel and a sequel. What were the co-creators' thoughts after the show ended? Before the final episode of the show aired, Peter Gould believed the ending was a very satisfying one for the story and was fitting as well, considering how the lead character went from being a low-level con man to being a legitimate lawyer to an associate of the Mexican drug cartels before being drawn back to a full-blown life of crime. For the production of the final season of the show, Gould admitted that he really felt the pressure of trying to create a perfect ending for the long-running show and is ultimately very happy with how it turned out. He was unaware of how viewers would see it then, but he admitted that the team felt very pleased with it. Now that the show is finally over, Vince Gilligan feels the end is finally here for the Breaking Bad franchise and knows that he knows when to leave the party. And although Gould would have liked the story to continue, he also agrees with Gilligan on this one. Gould explained that although he would have loved to work with Gilligan again, there is no actual plan to return for a spin-off because the story has been concluded. The two shows, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, have been given the suitable endings, and there's really no more side to explore after that. Despite this, Gould still finds it hard to say goodbye to the wonderful Albuquerque world and would love to leave the door open to revisit sometime. What scenes did the cast wish they could have filmed? After the wrap-up of the 6 seasons of Better Call Saul, the members of the cast were asked if there was one scene they would have liked to act in but probably couldn't because of lack of time, or maybe the story didn't go in that direction, or would have just been absurd to include in the series. Interestingly, the cast did have scenes they wish they were able to act in, but unfortunately, we'll never get to see them. Let's start with Chuck, attorney brother to the criminal lawyer that led the show. The actor who played Chuck, Michael McKean, wished at some point in the show some sort of key moment between the McGill brothers existed. In Season 4, we saw a flashback moment of the brothers having a karaoke night. McKean wondered if the doomed relationship between the duo could have been affected by a heart-to-heart discussion the following morning. The actor admitted there was absolutely no dramatic need to include this, but it would have been nice to see them somewhat close to real brothers. He, however, acknowledged that his character's arrogance and Jimmy's recklessness kind of affected their relationship. Let's move on to Gustavo Fring. The fun thing about this character is when we were first introduced to him in Breaking Bad, we didn't expect him to be a vicious narcotics dealer. He just passed off as an innocent restaurant owner. This man was legit the kingpin of the most successful drug operation before Walter White overthrew his empire. In both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, he showed how capable he was with his hands when he sliced Victor's throat so fluidly and how he killed Arturo with a plastic bag. We can pretty much agree that Gus was a very physical person, and the actor who played him, Giancarlo Esposito, also felt that way. The Better Call Saul star wished that there was some scene where Gus lifted weights. He thinks it would be fun to see Gus lift more weights than we could have possibly imagined, or better still, be incapable of lifting at all. We've got to agree that this is one scene that we need to see, but we'll never get to see. Then we have Tough Mike. Now this is interesting. The Mike character, played by Jonathan Banks, was mostly tough and untouchable, and it also extended to his emotions. We knew he felt responsible for his son's death, but what about his son's mother? We never got to see her. It seems Banks feels the same way because he felt that it would have been nice to see the person Mike was in love with, the only person that could have made him melt in gentleness. Banks was really disappointed that he never got to meet this character. Next up is Kim Wexler. Rhea Seehorn, who played Kim, had an interesting take on what she would have liked to see, although she was mostly joking when she pitched her idea. What did she wish to see? She wanted to see a poker contest between Jimmy, Gus, Mike, and Kim. Rhea even predicted the possible outcomes of such a match. She believed Jimmy would get eliminated immediately and admitted that Gus would also be good at the game, but might be unable to keep up with Mike and Kim because the two characters had zero tells. What do you think of that? Next, we have Nacho. It seems we are not the only ones thrilled to see Nando's sacrifice in the the final season, as Michael Mando, the actor who played him, also feels the same. It was pretty obvious that Nando wasn't so comfortable with the cartel life, and Michael wished that there would be a sequel where Nacho was finally given the opportunity to be himself, probably when moving from Mexico to Albuquerque. Michael believed it would be fun to see Nando finally get to express the romantic, the poetic, the soft and tender and depth of emotion he knew the character always had within him. Finally, we have our main guy, Jimmy McGill, or should we say Saul Goodman. Saul had a lot of fun relationships with a couple of relationships through the series, especially with Kim Wexler, but the actor feels it would be fun to see Jimmy and Mike playing handball. It would be real fun to see that unfold because they've just got a strange relationship, even though Jimmy was his former boss. The big guy was always simmering when talking to Saul, so it would be fun to see how a game would unfold between them. What challenges did the show face? Just like most shows and filming projects, Better Call Saul was also affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and there were delays regarding its production, which extended to its release date. However, COVID-19 was not the only thing that hampered the release of the sixth and final season of the show. On the filming set of the show, Bob Odenkirk, the actor who played Saul Goodman, suffered a heart attack, and it almost led to the canceling of the show because there was no backup plan available if the actor eventually couldn't make it back on set. Gould mentioned in an interview that they were fully prepared to remove the entire season because it was just entertainment and did not compare to the health of Odenkirk. Having someone close slump down in front of everyone suddenly was a shocking event, and it was indeed a miracle to have Bob back on the set after 5 weeks. After the actor came back on set, they were sure not to push him too hard, and thankfully they were able to complete the production of the final season without further issues. Impressively, even when Bob was at the hospital, he was requesting for the scripts. And that brings today's video to an end. Do you think Better Call Saul needs a prequel or sequel project? And if it does, what storyline should it pursue? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Tap the bell to get notified when new updates drop. Thanks for watching.